Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sync Up Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things OneDrive. OneDrive is the home for all of the files that you care about most, and we are here to take you behind the scenes to get the insights and the knowledge to make your experience and your users' experience better. My name is Stephen Rice. I'm Principal Product Manager here on the OneDrive team, and as always, I'm joined by my OneDrive aficionado, Arvind Mishra.
Hey everyone, my name is Arvind, and I'm also a Principal Product Manager on the OneDrive team. This week, we are going to do something kind of special. For those of you that listened to our last episode, you know that both Stephen and I were at the M365 Community Conference in Las Vegas. And so we want to take this week to actually do a recap on all the cool and interesting things that we saw coming to you live from live from the show floor. We're going to talk you through some of the things that went on there. So what do we got there, Stephen?
Let's see. So yeah, this was a special event. We've always kind of done these like recap episodes for the conference. This time, you and I were both there. We got to record together. We have, three, I think, different segments we're going to talk about recorded from the conference. First up, day one recap. You and I catch up and talk about all the amazing announcements from that first day. Then we've got a day two conversation about what happened on the second day. We've got an interview with a member of the community, Vlad. And then you and I are going to, now that we're post-conference, going to quickly talk about our kind of favorite highlights.
So, Stephen, I have never been to one of these M365 community conferences. This is my first time. I was shocked at the scale and spectacle of this conference.
This conference always feels amazing. Like the community is such a huge part of like SharePoint M365 as a whole.
Definitely feel that.
But last year was in Orlando. This year we are in Las Vegas. Arvind, we're recording here at the end of day one.
I'm looking out the window right now and I see Top Golf. We're here at the wonderful MGM Grand.
The important things. But you talk about the scale. Like I think the first thing we have to talk about is the opening keynote. That was Jeff Teeper.
Yep. Nicole.
And then Melissa Torres of SharePoint fame and Michaela Barrett of OneDrive fame.
Yep.
And so normally that keynote takes place in just, a large ballroom, traditional conference fair. This year, it was the MGM Grand Arena.
Yeah, where they like have boxing matches and stuff.
Yeah, it was
massive.
It was huge and insane. They had like lights going and it was, I don't know.
Yeah, so it was like going to a concert of some sort because they had like those laser lights going. And then they also gave out these LED wristband kind of things. And I guess they were Bluetooth enabled because they were all like, you look around the stadium or whatever, the arena, and they were all in unison. There was no delay. They were all blinking or all solid, various colors. And it sort of like was with the moment of whatever was being talked about.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, Taylor Swift-esque or any other concert you go to. Like, I don't know what the different colors meant.
Right. Well, I mean, I think they were like, I don't know, blue was, if they were getting people excited or red. If they want, I think maybe
you interpreted more than I did.
Yeah, I don't know. They would hit it at the right moments is what I would say. Yeah. So maybe the colors didn't mean anything, but certainly the changing of colors maybe meant something. Yeah.
In this part of our conversation, let's recap the first day. So we've got the keynote.
Yep.
And then today we also had the OneDrive AI session.
Yep, that Laisha and Ben Truelove are doing.
Yeah, both of Sync Up podcast fame.
Yeah.
And then we had Gaia and Kayla.
Right, doing the all-important
Sync deployment talk.
So it never gets old.
It's one of those... It's an oldie but a goodie.
Right. Very popular always. So in the keynote, there were some numbers that Jeff dropped that I thought were hugely impressive. Was it 1 billion users of SharePoint,
OneDrive and SharePoint across the board?
Or 1 billion people on the SharePoint platform.
Yeah.
Because at this point, we've been undergoing on the consumer side a migration from our old stack to SPO, and we're almost, I think 98, 99% of the way, done. And so like with all of those consumers, with all of the commercial users, there is like over 1 billion people. Like
it's, Jeff even said, he's been watching that number for 6 months. He was hoping it would line up with the conference. There's, I don't know, I haven't looked recently. There's like, what, 8 billion people on the planet now? Is that the number?
Yeah, something like
I know
that.
it's not a one-to-one mapping and so on, but like
1 out of 8 people are using SharePoint. Like,
I don't know if I would claim that particular number, but it's
right.
When you start talking about billions though, and particularly billions of people using a product, or accounts or whatever users, even when you double count, like that's still just an astounding number.
It is. I think you've officially made it when your product is a billion people. Like,
and this is 24 years of SharePoint that we've been celebrating. Next year will be 25.
Next year is a big
which will be a big one.
Yeah.
It's crazy when you think about like the momentum of a product. Like we are almost 24 years, almost 25 years on this cloud journey of which OneDrive is a part. And like,
and now it's just kind of like, it's par for the course for like, every company under the sun. Like it's like, of course it's in the cloud. Of course it's backed up. Of course it's secure, all of that. So, but like, what did you think of like the actual demos that everyone did? So like Melissa did a whole slew of them. I think she was out there twice.
Yep.
And then Michaela, sort of finished up there. Like what were
I actually want to start on Nicole's.
Nicole's right. And she did a whole.
I'm going to go in order.
I forgot.
I always laugh a little like, that's some very flowery marketing language. And one of the principles, and this is what I think what Nicole was kind of really talking through, was this idea that we will put agents and AI to work for us. You will be a boss of agents is what they talked about. And part of me always looks at those like, that just sounds like marketing speak. And Nicole's demos walked through the kind of researcher type experience, like, hey, I need to generate I think she did a demo for like a social marketing plan.
Yeah. And it created the entire plan.
And she literally was sitting there scrolling, not for minutes, but like for 30 seconds of this like detailed plan of like, here's what we're gonna do on Instagram. Here's how you should approach Facebook. Here are the KPIs you're gonna want to measure.
Yep.
And it didn't happen instantly. You wouldn't expect it to do so.
I mean, a lot of people for researcher, if they've never used it, maybe it's going to be different from your traditional chat experience. And so the thing that Nicole walked everybody through was that like she had this very complex ask of researcher, and researcher didn't just go away and come back and answer it. It basically first qualified the question and asked her some follow-up questions so that it had a little bit more direction, like a normal human being would. And then after that, it then started to like talk about like all the things that it was sourcing and gave her the opportunity to add more stuff, right?
Yeah. Like I said, I'm always a little skeptical, but when you watched her go through it, and this will be up on the Community Learning YouTube channel sometime after the event. I don't know when exactly. So you should check it out. It's really, really impressive.
Yeah.
Like
it really is.
You can see it working. You can see the experience.
And then the output, I think, is worth mentioning as well. Like, I mean, you kind of touched on it, but it's not that it's just like, a chat that you then have to like go copy and paste and put into a thing or PowerPoint or whatever. It's like, it gives you a fully fleshed out output, something that you like could output to a Word document, not copy and paste. I think you can actually just hit a button and output it to Word. But it's completely shareable and polished and all of that, which is pretty amazing.
I'll jump ahead a little bit, but you and I, so after the keynote, we worked the booth together.
Yep.
And I think one of the most common questions we get is like, well, what does Copilot in OneDrive look like?
Mm-hmm.
And I thought Nicole's demo, I don't know that she ever said OneDrive explicitly, but like OneDrive is the home for your files. I mean, that's our whole thing when we talk about, our intro for SyncUp is OneDrive is the place for all of your files.
Yep.
And it is part of what makes those research and like deep knowledge experiences work and sing and are powerful.
I mean, in that agent demo, I believe she grabbed content not only from outside of, from document libraries, from outside on the web, but she also referenced like, hey, you can also pull stuff right out of your OneDrive and have that be basis for knowledge as well. So that was a very impressive demo.
Yep.
What about?
We went to Melissa.
Yeah.
And this is where now I'm going to have to test myself. So Melissa, she was up there twice. The first time was for Teams.
Yep.
That's right. She was showing off Facilitator and some of the like the in-meeting experiences, live interpretation.
Our marketing partner Rob was in there masquerading as someone named Corey. So that was fun.
What are you trying to pull, Rob? We know. This is for Rob specifically. We know what you're doing.
We know what you're doing. Yeah. So on that, like, what was impressive
I think the one that really struck me was she did a demo for live interpretation. So one of your team members, translations. Thank you. An interpreter.
So like an interpreter, like a dance or something. Like it's like, yo, Copilot does that too.
Not yet. Right. Interpretive dance has not been announced, Arvin. That's under NDA.
No, it's coming. 2027.
But Melissa was talking with one of the people on the call and who spoke Spanish and was asking or reporting on a customer call, I think was the scenario. And like a live interpreter, the woman spoke, stopped, and then interpreter pops in with a facsimile of her voice and was like, hey, here's what it is in English. And
Melissa, who is a native Spanish speaker as well, was like, actually, the translation was spot on, which was like pretty awesome because like, I know earlier translation apps and things would be like, sometimes we give you garbage, right? And this was like, it had the right, phrasing,
intonation,
terminology, intonation, and it sounded like her. So very impressive and coming to Teams, I think at some point in the near future.
The other one I really appreciated, and we've been living with this internally for a bit, which I get the inside scoop. Is facilitator.
Oh yeah,
which is so everyone at this point is familiar with Teams meeting recap. One of like probably the best Copilot I think features we have in M365 right now. You finish a meeting, it spits out beautiful notes. Action items. Facilitator is the next evolution of that in my mind. It is an agent working in the meeting during the meeting. It picks up on the agenda that you put into your invite, and then it reports throughout the meeting on like, hey, sounds like you've agreed upon
X, Y, and Z,
or here's what the next topic is. Like it really weird. Microsoft named it appropriately, but it facilitates.
It facilitates the meeting. Well, and it also, I guess, like when it looks at your agenda, it's like, hey, you've gotten 1 out of 5 topics done, and you have 2 minutes left in your meeting. I need to schedule another meeting, and it starts suggesting, steps to do that or whatever, right? Like
all those things that, we've talked a lot about drudgery and how AI has the opportunity and potential to remove that. Just like, oh, thank God for thank you.
You don't have to think about it anymore.
Just does it.
Which is really cool.
Yeah. Then Melissa went into her she was demoed 2 different. She demoed Teams
and then she did demoed SharePoint authoring stuff, right? Which it's pretty cool.
I think one of the most natural applauses I think I heard out of the audience was Melissa's comment of like, everyone always needs more metadata, which just it's like feeding candy to babies.
No, I think that was Michaela, right?
Michaela. That was Michaela. Never mind.
Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah. It all blends together. Melissa, Michaela. Not too bad.
2 very different demos. But yeah, I mean, I think that like the SharePoint stuff that Melissa demo, the authoring stuff. I mean, I don't author a lot of SharePoints. I'm not a content person for our organization. But if I was, I think this would be hugely beneficial because I think I often wonder, it's like, if you're a content creator in an org, like you're out there, you're creating content, you hope people are reading it. And like a lot of whether or not somebody reads your content comes down to how it's presented, how easy it is to digest. And so I was really struck by a lot of the templates that are now just like out of the box.
New editorial card, I know they talked about.
It makes it look like $1 million. So,
and then of course, Copilot to help you pull the content together. She did a really cool demo, again, based on files.
Right. Doing the FAQ or whatever.
Yeah, it was like,
just generate it.
Here's the FAQ, here's the spec. And then it generated questions, it generated answers, had you review them all and just, made beautiful content, like you said, for the page.
That was pretty cool. And then lastly, Michaela did a demo where she created an HR agent.
Yeah, in Copilot Studio.
It's a very practical example, right? Because I always want to know how much vacation time I have left in a given year. And she did a bot that like effectively can answer that question now for the fictional HR organization that she created. So
it's always funny to me watching the Copilot Studio type demos because it's like chemistry where you take A, which is like, the bland HR page of here's our policies. You take B, which is like the time tracking tool.
Yep.
And it individually, very straightforward things, not interesting in their individual elements. Combine them, add a little bit of Copilot magic on top, and you're like, oh, this is actually significantly more useful.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, so that covers the keynote. It was phenomenal.
Right.
Next up was the security keynote. I was not able to make that one.
Yeah,
tell me about it.
I watched that, and like I swear, like everyone, our audience knows I'm not a technical person, but I think
they do know.
They do know.
It's been very clear.
I keep reminding them. But like, what I will say is that anytime like say Shamani like does demos of like some of the most under the hood, IT management stuff that like I don't work in this area remotely, but I understand his demos and I find them, really compelling. And I can see, the value to some, to our customers, especially the people that are like managing like 1,000, 10,000, 100,000 desktops or whatever. So, but anyways, he, like, a couple things, struck me about his demo was, it was a lot about adding controls in a Copilot sort of universe, I guess. It's like adding controls for IT pros to be able to control what Copilot, surfaces or doesn't surface.
Inevitably, Delve didn't expose. Delve wasn't broken. It exposed all of your bad practices for the world to see.
Around setting, permissions.
Yep, exactly. Like you messed up somewhere, your IT messed up somewhere, and Delve lets you figure it out.
Well,
and Copilot has the same challenges. It exposes the issues that already exist in your system. You just didn't realize.
Totally.
And it is always so powerful to see, like I said, Sisha is a fantastic speaker.
Yeah.
And he just walks through step by step of like, hey, here's how you get your organization ready for Copilot.
Yeah. So I think the moment that like in all of his demos or his like 15-minute talk or whatever that got like the most applause was like just a simple moment, which I feel like we've shown it before. And I know we showed it at the OneDrive October event, but we showed it here in the context of like, maybe it was a different console view inside of SharePoint.
Yeah.
And literally it was just like, take this document library, don't include it in Copilot. And everyone was like, oh my God, yeah.
It sounds so basic.
Yeah.
And it's foundational to, it's just all these building blocks of we give you the tools to piece them together and it lets you create a secure but collaborative environment.
Yeah. And I think like when I think about the tools that we've given people, like in the, like the tools previously were great for whatever the environment was like 5-10 years ago,
Yep.
But now that like everything's in the cloud, everything's accessible and everyone's having to manage like sharing permissions and things like that.
Yep.
Like those tools from 5-10 years ago aren't the right tools anymore, or they need to be supplemented. Right. And so I think that's what a big point of Sasha's talks were is like, okay, Copilot can now be that tool to like identify all the things across your org that are, insecure and then help you make them secure very easily.
Yeah.
For the right people. Right. So
I had this conversation with a large pharmaceutical company that dropped by the OneDrive booth where they're same bucket, 50,000 plus users, tons of content. And we were talking about like, how do you manage that effectively? Mm-hmm. And you do reach a point, a size where it's just like, no, you do not hire people to comb through 6,000.
Yeah, right. Be like, is this permission right? That one right.
But again, Copilot is a tool not just to collaborate or get work done because it is getting work done, but like it's using Copilot to secure the Copilot. Like it's
using Copilots on your Copilots. I mean, it's kind of the thing. Like you need, the robots to control the other robots, and that's kind of what this is. But it's like, again, Sasha just showed some very practical examples. Big hit with the audience.
Yeah. So let's go to the first official OneDrive session specific. That was Guy and Kayla's session on OneDrive sync deployment. It's like from start to deployment.
But it's like a 201 level conversation. So it's like better than what we just did at like, I think office hours like a month ago.
Exactly. Yeah. So. This talk, Guy in particular, I think has delivered it. So this is my fourth SharePoint conference, I think.
Okay.
Or M365 conference. 2 of them are SharePoint, whatever.
Yeah.
Hand waving. I think Guy's delivered, or someone has delivered this talk at every conference. It is always a hit.
It is.
It is aka.ms/ I actually don't know what the link is, but wherever sync ideal state.
I think it's literally that.
Okay.
Sync ideal state.
I thought, and I was like, oh, maybe I should check this. But it is walking through how do you deploy OneDrive successfully. And the thing I always appreciate that, Gaia and Kayla do is they interweave the ideal state talk track of like, hey, turn on KFM. Hey, I don't know what else is an ideal state off the top of my head. Make sure, WSS is on.
You're like, or do it in waves and things like that. And like,
this is why we normally have the experts to join us.
Sync we're not experts in sync.
No, to be fair, when someone comes to the booth with a sync question, it's like, no, let me take you to someone who knows this much better than I do.
Point them to somebody else.
But they walked through all of the basics, how to get your into a good state.
Yep.
They talked about the reporting tooling in the admin center, and now
so you can see which devices are not like actually syncing, and if having
what's broken.
And stuff.
That's been a huge focus.
So they talked about that. They also talked about like some new enhancements that are coming to get like, because a lot of organizations, I guess I found really surprising, are like, yeah, we're going to leave it up to the individual as to whether or not they want to back up to OneDrive.
You should. If you take one thing away from this podcast, back up your stuff to OneDrive.
Yeah, even if you think it's not important, it's personal. It's your end users' personal files. I guarantee you there's something important on that.
Yep.
Because not everyone is religiously saving to the right document library, right? Yeah. And so, so they showed off, these features that are now showing up inside of Office, where like if you are one of those organizations that do leave it up to your end users, when you go into Office as an end user, you'll see like this banner that's like, if you're working on a new document, it'll be like, hey, this is not actually being backed up to the cloud. Do you want to turn on backup? And it walks people through, how to do that and what they can pick what they actually want to like back up to the cloud. And so it feels like a very useful feature.
Yeah. The thing we put together like the OneDrive roadmap, for our sessions. You've got it, I assume, in your session. There's a specific one just for the OneDrive sync experience.
Yeah.
And it is just chock full of stuff ranging from like minor to major improvements across the board. Mm-hmm. Yeah, improvements to delete notifications, improvements to the add to OneDrive experience and the naming and how all those things work.
Well, that is somebody like the add to OneDrive experience, as I've now learned, is like just incredibly important, like more so than almost any sync experience.
How many times did you get asked today, Arvind, about syncing large libraries?
A lot. I think that was the only question I got. I was like, can I please talk about something else? And it was like, yeah, I've got this end user in my org that insists on syncing 2 terabytes of data. And it's like, why are you letting them do that? Like, I don't know if there's a good answer to that. I mean, I know OneDrive does sync like hundreds of thousands of files, but like at the end of the day, like 2 terabytes of data is like,
that's where a lot of the work the team has done around, like, I know there's scheduling, and like Vishal is an expert at this, of like, when do you schedule your migration? And syncing and stuff like that to try and, help with off-peak hours.
Yep.
And then why placeholders? What's the official name? Or is it placeholders? On demand. Files on demand.
Files on demand. That's what it is.
We got there.
Okay. We were saying on demand.
Files on demand is also a solution to this, because so you're not constantly syncing in changes on 2 terabytes of files.
100%. So anyways, very important. Add to OneDrive.
Great talk.
And not syncing. That's like, okay. So now the last session
for Tuesday. We're still on Tuesday, and we're like 5 minutes in.
So the last session,
AI and OneDrive
and Bentrula, where they did like every AI feature under the sun that's coming to OneDrive.
Can I admit another embarrassing thing?
What's that?
I also just was super popular at the booth. I always find audio overviews. Maybe I'm not an auditory learner.
Yeah.
But one of the features we talked about is the ability to do podcasts and audio overviews for your files in OneDrive. So
right.
If you wanted to listen to fake Stephen and Arvind, talk about a particular document, that should
be the voice in there, and we're not. But in any case,
licensing. I don't want it too much.
So you were saying like you.
But I always find I don't listen to
podcasts.
I listen to podcasts occasionally, but like I don't do well with auditory
learning. Okay.
Learning, I'm visual and hands-on. So I always find like, that's not my cup of tea. Yeah. I had so many people ask about this at the booth as well, and like people interested in wanting to try it.
Yeah, I gotta say, I think there's definitely, I'm with you. Like, I don't think like that's the kind of feature where you're like, man, this is all I'm ever going to use to summarize my documents. Because I think there's a time and place. And so you could see that if somebody sends you like annual statements for a a company, like when they do their earnings and stuff, like, if you were a CFO, you might want to drop that entire thing into your OneDrive mobile app, and then be able to hit a button and then go for a run while you listen to 2 people talk about that.
You and I are also very traditional information workers in the sense that, like, you and I work from home quite a bit, but like we have an office still effectively. It's at home. Talk to a lot of people that they have folks that are out in the field, but like they're out on the job,
traveling,
traveling.
or something. Yeah, like.
Really, really cool. Let's see what other we of course did the comparison demo, which is always very popular.
Yeah, the comparison demo is really cool. I feel like there's a set of features that are like sort of like standard across, all of the file universe now. So like summarize and FAQ and compare, and like all of those are really interesting. But I think like the agent experience, I think that is pretty fantastic. So you can like now kick off an agent and create an agent directly from OneDrive. And then of course, like all agents, you can like take that agent and share it with people and so forth. And so that feels like it's going to be a very used kind of thing for by people. So
that wraps up, I think, day one. So from here, I've got an interview that I did with Vlad, which you'll be listening to next, and then we'll jump into our day two.
Wait, who's Vlad?
We have to listen to the interview to find out, Arvind.
All right, okay, cool. Don't keep the audience waiting.
Hey, Vlad, how's it going?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining us. So this is, I think, your first time on the Sync Up podcast. At least the first time since I started hosting.
It is my first time. So.
Awesome. How are you doing the conference so far? It's Tuesday for folks who are...
for many people, this is the first day of the conference. I came in Vegas on Saturday because I had a workshop on Sunday and a lot of content creation on Monday. So it's day 3.
I can't
It's a long week in Vegas, but you know what? The community is so amazing. Even if you sleep 4 or 5 hours a night, you still have energy.
Exactly.
Which is fun.
So why don't we just start, introduce yourself for our audience. So for folks who don't know you, haven't seen your work online, who is Vlad? What does Vlad do?
Sure. So my name is Vlad Catrinescu. I'm a Microsoft MVP from Montreal, Canada. I've been an MVP in SharePoint, M365, all the different names it had over the past 10 years. And I also do a lot of Power Automate as well.
Okay.
From a content creation perspective, I do a lot of courses on Pluralsight.
Okay.
I just reached my 100 course last month.
Congratulations.
So that's almost 1 million unique people trained, which is amazing. I never thought I would reach that number.
Yeah.
And I'm on X, Blue Sky, LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, all professional accounts. No, don't worry, no cat pictures. But you'll find me everywhere. Nothing wrong with cat pictures. I'm more of a dog person.
I am as well. If it makes
sense.
Actually, here, so we just recorded a video for your channel talking about the new sharing improvements that we announced. So in our demos, we have, I shared with like Cassie and Zoe.
Yeah.
Both of those are named after my dogs.
For real? That's amazing.
That was my little Easter egg. I'm like, I'm going to include them somewhere.
That's amazing. I grew up with a German Shepherd called Diana.
Oh.
And now I recently got a house because I didn't want to have a dog until I have a house. So we're looking at a German Shepherd, a Malamute, or a Golden. So 3 big dogs. But, since I grew up with a German Shepherd.
It's half the fun.
Yeah, my fiance's not listening to OneDrive stuff. So I'm heavily going towards German Shepherd.
Okay.
I'm pushing that way.
Well, we can table the dog discussion. So first thing I have to ask you, so during the keynote or before the keynote, Karana pulled you up and I think she introduced you as like a very special guest of the M365 conference?
Well, so as every speaker gets a code that we can share with our audience to have a discount, which is $150. And this year, I got the most people signed up to the conference. So I feel happy because I managed to save a lot of people money.
Yep.
It's like $150 for the code. I think I had about 80-something people sign up with my code. So thank you to all of you if you're listening to this. So
awesome.
So it's a win-win for everybody, right?
Yeah,
people save money, more people here to connect with. I love doing that.
So you mentioned community, obviously you pulled people in yourself. How many SharePoint conferences have you been to at this point? Or M365 conferences,
Like the big ones or all of them?
Let's say so we have the North American, this conference we're at, Microsoft 365 community, which then used to be SharePoint North America. And then there's also like European SharePoint conference.
Yes. So European SharePoint conference, I've done all of them since 2015.
Oh, wow.
I haven't missed any of them. This one technically, it took a break, right?
Yeah, exactly. There's some weird...
But since it came back, I've done all of them.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's hard to understate the community that exists here.
Yeah.
We talk about it a bunch and it's like, it always sounds kind of weird. And then you get here and you're like, oh no, I get it.
Yeah, no, I love it. And I work remote. The company I work with, Siskit, they're all in Europe.
Okay.
I'm the only person in North America. So for me, going to conferences, I see it in a way as going to the office.
Yeah.
That's where I see everybody that I interact with online, everybody that, even my colleagues that are here sponsoring, I see them when going to conferences. So it's a win-win.
Awesome. All right. So I know we're on day one of the official conference, but so far, what are the big takeaways for you? What are the things you've most appreciated seeing?
So, I come from an IT pro background. So of course the OneDrive sharing.
Yep. I mean, I'll take the pat on the back.
That one is, well, ever since Summit, I told you, that was one of my favorites. My other one, from an admin point of view, was all the governance stuff for agents. Because I love agents, but the way they were shipped to us as IT pros, sometimes, it's like, hey, it's turned on by default. Everybody can use it. But sometimes you need to turn it off. It's not because we hate users, but sometimes, we have a bigger adoption plan in mind and we didn't have any visibility. So that coming is awesome. And from my end user hat, Copilot notebooks.
Oh, interesting.
So I've been using projects in ChatGPT before to achieve that, but that made me that I had to download my data from SharePoint, put it into ChatGPT. I'm not saying it's not secure. Of course, I pay for the subscription. I have all the privacy stuff turned off, but I already pay for Copilot. I'd rather just pay for one thing and have all the features. So having that will be amazing. I don't have it yet, but hopefully very soon I'll get my hands on it and I'll switch everything over to Copilot.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit more about Copilot if you're up for it. This is one of those things. Copilot, I don't know, burst onto the scene. It feels like it feels like forever ago at this point, but it also feels like it was last year. What has your experience been with Copilot, both as a IT pro that is, working on getting it deployed to people? You mentioned the kind of security side of it, but also as an end user, using it. How have you been feeling about it all?
Sure. So let me start with the IT pro side first.
Sure.
I think first of all, everybody wants Copilot. Every C-level out there wants Copilot in their company. So I don't think I'm exaggerating with that. But now a lot of organizations realize their permissions were a mess forever.
Yep, it's the Delve problem.
Yes, the Delve problem, the security by obscurity, and because SharePoint search has always been good if configured properly, but a lot of times you couldn't find the documents you're looking for. So if you didn't know you're looking for something, you would never find it. So you never really had the problem. And again, no hate toward SharePoint or anything, but if configured properly, it's amazing.
Absolutely.
But now with Copilot, you ask it a random question like, hey, what's new in the past week? Oh, well, there's this new layoff project that just happened. I'm like, where did that come from?
So during the keynote, Nicole talked about the kind of concept of like, oh, everyone is a boss of agents now.
Yes.
And I always find that kind of funny because it's like, oh, are you really? But you're describing exactly that of like, you now have an army of people, of agents that go and are finding information for you that, like you said, it's not that the product is working incorrectly or bugged. It's just, hey, permissions are out of whack. Things that happen when users aren't aware, make mistakes.
Yeah.
And Copilot, just happens to highlight that for you. So then to go and fix it.
Copilot amplifies everything.
Yeah.
It amplifies the good, becomes even better. Yeah. But if it's bad, it also amplifies that, unfortunately. So I've spent a lot of work in the past year getting companies Copilot ready. And that's why I'm doing a session on SharePoint Advanced Management.
Awesome.
This week at the conference and going through all of that using Microsoft tools to get Copilot ready.
Yeah.
So from an end user now, I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I do find myself alternating between, because I'm a techie as well and I like to play between. So I pay for ChatGPT, I pay for Copilot, I pay for Anthropic, for Claude. And
of course.
I find the experience is so different in a way. Copilot is amazing at the integrations we have, the Teams meeting recap. Only that gets me my ROI.
Yeah.
Only that one functionality pays for Copilot.
All on its own.
All on its own.
Yeah. How did you feel about the facilitator announcement? The kind of, so recap is kind of post-meeting agent work, AI work, and then facilitator is your in-meeting.
I love it. I tried to get it to work. I was not able, because I know there's like AI notes that are there yet, but also because, again, remember, I'm the only one in North America. Sometimes having tests with yourself, not the easiest way to test certain things. But I think it will be amazing. And meetings, I'm sure you're a manager. You spend more times in meetings than you probably want to. So you use it more than me.
Yep.
I sometimes have the dream schedule where I have like 2 meetings per week, and the rest of it is just getting stuff done. So I love that. But no, but Copilot, yeah. So I loved it. Reliability is getting better.
Yep.
I do a lot of Copilot training as well. And doing Copilot training is tough. Doing any Gen AI training is tough because you practice a prompt forever. It works. And then there's people in front of you. And then it's like, I'm going to give you something else.
It's something that we talk about a lot internally as you're working through and how do we build AI tools. And it's, when, we talked about the new sharing experience and the new UX. Does the button show up where it's supposed to show up? It's either a yes or no question. It works and you're good, or it doesn't and you're bad and you go and fix it. AI doesn't have that approach. It can work fine for months and something
happens. Something is Microsoft changes one word and the way they do the internal prompt, and it changes everything.
Yeah, it makes for very interesting live demos.
Yes.
Let's talk about SharePoint Advanced Management now.
Yeah.
So you have your sessions on Thursday, you said?
Wednesday.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're recording ahead of time, but this will come out after. So
it's okay.
What do you got what's in store for your session? What are your tips?
So basically, we're going to go. I'll show a funny video first. I'll show it to you after. I'm not sure if I'll post it publicly. It's only for people at the conference. But we're going to go through how to discover you have a problem. So your data access governance reports, your permission state reports. So how to discover you have a problem and how bad it is. And after that, all the tools to fix it. So we're going to cover restricted access control on SharePoint sites. We are going to cover RCD. I have a nice demo of restricted content discovery where I have 2 users, a bit like you, and they both ask the same prompt. They both have the same permissions, but because RCD is turned on, they do not see it. If everything, hopefully the demo guys are with me. After that, the second user will access the document. It'll become part of the working set, and then it will work by the end of the session. But
awesome.
Again, demo gogs. I'll sacrifice a site collection and a few agents before for the demo gogs.
I mean, it's what you get when we're on convention Wi-Fi at all.
I know. I still want to make it work.
Absolutely.
After that, I'll go through all the site lifecycle policies, ownership policies, and the brand new site attestation policy that we're not going to wait to have a problem. We're actually going to proactively engage people and say, hey, can you double check everything and tell us if it's still good? So hopefully the other ones will become useless. Hopefully.
It's always good to have multiple strings in your bow, as it were, proactive, reactive.
Oh, yeah. Sure. Yeah, hopefully the other ones will have less alerts, let's say, because everything is done proactively.
Perfect.
But yeah, no, that's super fun. And of course, the aging stuff. Of course, we've seen a preview of it in the keynote, but I think we've seen a bit of a future preview of it in the keynote. I'll show people what you can do today, which is a PowerShell only experience, but I'll still show them what you can do today with in mind where that's going to be in the future with the UI and everything.
Awesome. Well, if folks want to learn more about you, find your content, your Plural site, where can folks find you online?
Sure. So YouTube, Vlad Talks Tech. On X, you'll find me, Vlad Catrinescu. It's super easy to spell. Luckily, X has some AI. So if you follow a bunch of M365 people, you put Vlad. There's not that many of us. Or LinkedIn as well. And from there, you'll have access to all my stuff.
Perfect. I still have one more question, though, I have to ask you. So in the MVP Summit, there was a bunch of chatter amongst the chat about how Vlad isn't allowed to have files shared with him.
So, well, people love to pick on me because I don't mind. I have fun with it. So that's okay. And I think because sometimes I have bad luck with OneDrive.
Okay.
And a lot of the times I work on like 5 different laptops. Sometimes they're closed off for like months at a time and things like that. And there's a few people that after, you close the laptop for 5 months, you reopen it, and then some odd things happened. So people are scared to share OneDrive stuff with me.
I will share OneDrive files with you. If it makes you feel better.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for joining me, Vlad. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
All righty, here we are for day 2. Man, it was a action-packed day today. I don't know about you, Stephen. I'm like tired.
You forget how much a convention takes out of you, or conference takes out of you now.
Oh my gosh. So both of us actually had presentations today. And I think that like more so than, working in the booth, which is what we did yesterday.
Yep.
What I did yesterday. Actually prepping for the presentation, doing the presentation, being up there, like it's a lot of mental energy. It's surprisingly more fatiguing than you'd expect.
It is. And then the feeling of relief when you're done, you're like, I don't have to do this anymore, is just kind of phenomenal.
See, I had a different reaction. I was like, let me do it again immediately because I was like, oh, it would be so much better this next time. Fewer mess ups, that kind of thing.
That is because you only had one session this morning. So it was a OneDrive packed morning. We had the OneDrive overview session, followed immediately by the ODSP, OneDrive, and SharePoint keynote.
Yep.
Followed by the collab session.
Right. And then just now we finished up with a OneDrive customer panel that Jason also hosted. Jason was everywhere today, I think.
It really felt that way.
Yeah, it really did. Between the keynote, the SharePoint OneDrive keynote, and then then this customer panel. So, anyways, well, we kicked off today doing the like sort of the OneDrive overview that Michaela and I effectively ran, and so that was kind of like this nice, it was well received. And it was like a nice overview of. Just, I don't know, kind of the greatest hits of what we're doing.
It's always amazing, like, especially watching the two of you, it's an hour-long session, 50 minutes, something like that, and you are just packing it in, demo after demo, video after video.
So from you were in the audience, so, what was your take on, what resonated most with the crowd?
This will not shock you. I think the thing that might have gotten the most applause might have been colored folders on the OneDrive mobile experience.
Colored folders. We'll keep trucking that out anytime we need applause.
I mean, the new sharing stuff got applause as well. We'll talk about that in a moment because that's obviously had its own whole session.
Yep. Add to OneDrive, I think, got some applause. Yeah. That was the first. I was like, oh, you're applauding for this? Okay, cool. Yes, it's important. Thank you.
I think there was some good applause and humor. You guys did a great job bringing humor into the discussion.
Yes, trying very hard.
But you were doing the parent thing where you were flipping through photos and showing.
Oh yeah,
the cool. Yeah. But you were looking for pictures of your son in a penguin costume.
Yep.
Something with Naruto, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. Well, he filmed a video with him running like Naruto and Antarctica. But the other thing I thought also was a pretty big hit was the transfer ownership.
Yeah, that one, you squeezed it in the end, and I'm glad you did. Yeah, I've actually had it come up a couple different times, the challenges that people have when someone leaves the company. And today that email just kind of sucks.
It's completely forgettable. You would be like, oh, is this spam or what? Yeah, that email is pretty forgettable. I'd say even the experience, if you can get through that email, ends up being super taxing on the manager. So yeah, it was cool to show off how it's going to be that much clearer and easier for the manager who has to figure out what to do with all these files to make those decisions and actually move them somewhere more helpful so that they live on beyond that person's tenure.
Well, and one of the things I think that got the most applause is you showed off that kind of move and keep sharing option at the bottom as a manager when you're moving files, the ability to see the shared pivot, so knowing which files are shared and you need to address.
Yep.
Hugely popular.
So that was the first presentation. So then in the keynote, we covered a lot of SharePoint stuff, but you covered specifically the sharing.
Before we get to that, because so the keynote was higher level. We showed off some of the OneDrive agent capabilities again, audio overviews. I mean, we talked about this yesterday with Lesh's section as well, but just the power that OneDrive gives to agents when you're grounding in your content, able to answer questions about it.
Yep.
Michaela did the 2-minute demo of it. Then I did a 6-minute demo of it in this kind of ODSP keynote.
Yep.
The new sharing model that we are releasing later this year.
It's monumental, is what I would say.
Simple, smart, secure sharing.
Yeah. So biggest change in 15 years.
Yep.
We've covered it sort of to varying degrees, but then in your session
we did a dedicated, we did the 2-minute demo, then the 6-minute demo, and then we did 30 minutes of demo.
30 plus minutes and content. Yeah. And so she went through 10 different scenarios, how you can share, and you guys thought through everything. Which was really cool.
We've been working on it for honestly over a year. We were thinking about it and working on through a lot of pieces of it during the last Microsoft Community Conference.
Uh-huh.
And so to finally get to lift the curtain on that, show off the new hero link. Every file now gets a hero link that is flexible and controllable. Was just
and you can also update permissions after that hero link is
exactly. You send out a link, it doesn't work because you forgot to permission it correctly. Now you just update the permissions on that link. You don't have to worry about sending out a new link. It just works.
Yep.
And of course, the hero link is the address bar link. So if you share that way or you used to doing it, it all just works the way you expect.
That's great. And then also there were some important remarks about what the defaults are going to be for its.
So yeah, in this world of Copilot, we really want to make sure we're helping people keep their content safe. So links will default by default, if you will, to only people added. So only people who already have access to your file. Very similar to the existing access links that we have today.
Yep.
It just honestly felt amazing to get to show it off. There's a blog up now as well. I believe it's ak.ms/OneDrive/blog/collab. I believe the official announcement for that. And it's got screenshots and walkthroughs. We're already seeing a couple of customer videos.
Okay.
Oh, we've got questions too. But Steve Corey, one of the Microsoft MVPs, put up a video on his channel that walks through a lot of it as well.
Awesome.
It's just
very, very well thought through launch. So that was S3. Let's see.
Customer panel. So
we had there was a couple of healthcare providers. There was PwC, who I know you guys have been
worked with,
involved with in the development of this new sharing model. And then we had Capital
Group, I believe.
Capital Group, from Los Angeles, I think, somewhere, or California. So it was a good mix of kind of big, I would say, regulated industries between banking and healthcare.
We've done this panel, I think now 2 or 3 years in a row. And it's largely a Q&A panel of, Jason talking to these customers and then eventually questions from the audience. Like, hey, what is your lived experience with OneDrive?
Yeah.
And I think the thing I most enjoy about it is it's, obviously when we give sessions, they're very polished. We know what we're going to say. So that's what we say. When we're doing these kind of panels with customers, they give us honest feedback on what works, what doesn't.
Sure. What are they going to say? I was going to say they do know what the questions are.
They know what the questions, but we don't always know exactly the direction they'll go.
Right. Well, thankfully they say good things as well.
Well, I mean, I like to think we've earned the good things that they say. They share their lived experiences. One that I remember, obviously, because it's sharing related, is one of them was talking about their mistakes with breaking inheritance across the board and permissioning and having this they took the model they had in on-prem and just kind of ported it one-to-one to the cloud, not really thinking it through. And, then they spent years undoing that and building out a permissions model and system that works better with the cloud. It's just such a great opportunity for the folks in the audience to learn, some of those best practices.
I agree. I agree about that. The other thing I also thought was really interesting and also very insightful was a point made about empathy and understanding it from the end user's perspective. And so, and that was in reference to when you bring in M365 and OneDrive into a organization that is used to, say, maybe a suite or offering from another competitor or even a homegrown solution, there's a lot of resistance. And so having empathy towards that, and then even trying to build advocates within those, holdouts to be like, hey, no, you run the process, you help us. It was interesting to see how they use that to successfully ultimately roll this thing out. So.
Yeah, I think two of the lessons I liked. One was building your change fans inside of your organization. The advocates for being on the cutting edge of what you're doing can really help lead with success. And the other, and I think this was from PwC, they talked about, challenge your assumptions, particularly, when you're specifically with security is I think what he was talking about, but it applies broadly of it's worth, why do we have this policy? Why does this exist? It's making pain for our users. And he said, a lot of times the answer is, this is just how we've always done it.
Right. And policy built for another lifetime or something.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great panel. Of course, we plugged, I think, at the end, the OneDrive customer office hours, which folks should join as a way to get some of that type of feedback directly from the team.
Yeah, I feel like we got a lot of plugs for ThinkUp as well during this during this whole
we
conference.
we gave out a lot of beanies today.
Yeah, there were a lot of people that a lot of our listeners were here, which was like really, really great. So all of our listeners out there, thank you for supporting us, and hopefully we're providing you with all the great information that makes your jobs easier or more enjoyable. So
absolutely. All right, I think that wraps up day 2 for us.
All right, that is the end of day 2. All right, we will be signing off. Talk to y'all later.
All right, Arvind, we're back home now. You and I both made it home safely on our various flights to various places. We're about 2 weeks on from the conference now. How are you feeling now that it's all settled in? The emotions have come down a little bit.
Yeah, great question. I think I'm still kind of on a high, is what I would say.
Ooh,
like,
okay.
I thought it was like, for one, for me, it was very energizing to like talk to so many customers. Number 2, I think it was also incredibly energizing to be able to show everyone what we're working on and to hear the response. And in many cases, we are on the right track with a lot of the features that we're building. I know, we talked about, on the second day when we did our recap, that was kind of the heavy lifting day for both you and I. We were in like tons of presentations, and we had, we had to like, it was kind of the OneDrive day is what I would say. But, I think back to like, that day, at least the presentation that I got to perform with Michaela. And for me, like, just being able to show so many different things and have people applaud at so many different parts, and be really excited, just was like reinforce, like, hey, we're building the right thing, but B, like what a big product OneDrive is, and how many different things we have to think about and keep in mind when we're making features and whatnot, and to make all of our customers' lives easier.
Yeah, I'll say even more so, I think, than when in our little day 2 kind of recap, I am kind of in awe at the amount of content that you guys covered in your session, and the kind of the OneDrive keynote, as we called it. Like, you got up on stage at what time was your session? Like 9 a.m. was it? If I remember.
Yeah,
8 a.m. So you got on stage at 8 a.m. sharp, coffee in hand, and you guys just rattled off new features and improvements to the product for like an hour straight.
Over an hour. We were late.
You were late. Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm impressed you covered as much as you did. I'm impressed you managed to cover it in the time slot that was allotted. Hats off.
But Stephen, you had some of the most impactful news to announce during the show. So like, what was your big takeaway?
Yeah, I mean, I think I had the opposite experience of you. Instead of covering a bunch of features, I had one big feature to cover in the kind of new sharing experience. We already talked about it in the day 2 recap. I won't belabor it again. The thing I'm left with now post, 2 weeks post conference, which is a little bit new for me, is we had a bunch of people, not just at the conference, kind of, give us applause and talk about how excited they were, but we've seen that after the conference, we have a blog, aka.ms/OneDrive/blog/collab is, I believe, the URL.
It's a mouthful.
Yeah, it is. It makes more sense when it's, typed out, but we've got something like 14 people to date have left comments on it. It's got a bunch of views, like it's the most viewed blog out of all of the coverage from the event.
Wow.
Which I'll pat myself on the back for that one. But like, we had people like post about it on LinkedIn and then like tag me in it, which is always a weird feeling of like, no, what do you mean? We just build features. There's been like 2 or I think 3 now people that recorded videos. One of which we recorded with Vlad, who you just heard me talk to. It's a surreal feeling. And I mean, I think you've had maybe more experiences of this throughout your career, perhaps, where you like announce something and then you see press coverage of it. I don't know. It never gets old. It just feels cool to know that, like, hey, we were working on a thing, we announced it, we told people about it, and it resonated enough that people are like, ooh, I want to write about that and put the spotlight on it.
No, and like y'all did such a good job in the at the conference and also with the feature as a testament by all the great feedback that you're getting with the project. So yeah, it's always exciting to work on something that hopefully changes everyone's like work patterns for the better. I mean, it is the for the biggest change to SharePoint in like 15 years or something?
To sharing specifically, not SharePoint. I don't know if I can claim quite that large of a mandate, if you will. But yeah, and then, there's we come back to the office and now it's like, great. Now we got to go back to building products.
Cool. Well, that was an exciting show, and I hope we both get to go to one of these conferences again. And also for our listening audience, we hope we get to meet more of you the next time. It was great to hear how many people were fans of Sync Up. We got some applause every now and then as well, and so thank you to our listeners. And if you want to keep listening to us, please send us ideas for the show at any time. But that said, I want to say thank you to Vlad for joining us at the conference and doing an interview. For those of you that want to follow Vlad has a YouTube channel where it's called Vlad Talks Tech. It's very simple. It's VLAD, and it's a super popular kind of YouTube show. So please check it out.
Yeah, he did a couple different videos of the conference, and they're all phenomenal. If you want to learn more about OneDrive itself, get the latest and greatest, you can check out the blog at aka.ms/OneDrive/blog. You can join us for office hours the third Wednesday of every month at aka.ms/OneDrive office hours. You can find myself on LinkedIn at srice08 and Arvind at ArvindMishra1.
Cool. And like I mentioned, we love hearing from you. We love getting show ideas from you all. If you ever have any questions or thoughts, please email us at syncupquestions@microsoft.com. You can visit our page for links, resources, and more at aka.ms/syncup.
Don't forget to subscribe to Sync Up wherever you get your podcasts. If you enjoy Sync Up or if you find it useful, tell your friends. Word of mouth is the best way to get people engaged and help us grow the show. If you're curious about other Microsoft podcasts, check out aka.ms/Microsoft/podcasts. As always, a huge thanks to Lisa for making this podcast possible.
Thank you for listening to Sync Up. We've been your hosts, Stephen and Arvin, and we'll catch up with you next month.